others also seek it. And you need to find it before anyone else does. In order to keep your connection to the box a secret from those around you. Sigmar, who are you really? No matter. It doesn't make a difference to me. It's all the same. I'm content to feign ignorance.
The question is, who are you, Luxord?
So in our discussion on the purpose of Verum Rex, I planted the seed that Luxord is the mysterious man we met at the end of Kingdom Hearts Union Key named Sigurd. At first glance, I understand some of you may have reservations about how I could possibly come to such a conclusion, but that's why we must discuss scene and how the idea of scene can reveal hidden truths. Scene, in short, is the components of media that make up interactions, events, context, and narrative. When observing scene, one must absorb and contextualize words, expression, setting, and the why an interaction presumably would take place, which is the part of scene we'll be focusing on today, as Luxord actually puts forth crumb trails that he is someone else and he apparently works for someone else. So let's break down his scenes from Kingdom Hearts 3. So when we first meet Luxord in Kingdom Hearts 3, it's the scene of the assemblage in the Keyblade graveyard where he references a secret role to Larxene, where he is spying on these three individuals and listening in on their conversation. Hint, hint. Upon his entrance, Luxord says, Xemnas brought these four back to rot on the bottom rung, implying that they've been brought back for the sole purpose of being destroyed all over again. So the idea of the 13 Seekers returning was always for the sake of them releasing their high-dimensional energy while clashing with strong wills of light or the 7 Guardians. Keep this in mind, and I do mean keep it in mind because this is important to understanding his death and his discussion with Luxu. He then says, I happen to play an important role. I've touched on this before in the Yozora identity video. This important role is actually given Sora the wild card. We know this because of the remind scene with Luxu where Luxord says that the black box is of no importance to Xehanort nor Xemnas, and Isa implies to Luxu that they don't even know that the objective of Luxord's search is to find a box. Isa specifically says to Luxu he's in search of something as per Luxu's order. So when he says something, that's indicative of the fact that they do not know what it is that Luxord is actually looking for. Thus, Luxord could not have been brought back for the sake of searching for the box. Lastly, Luxord reveals it was Xemnas who brought these 4 individuals back to the real Organization 13, which gives us confirmation that Xemnas would be the one to bestow their initial task. It wouldn't be Luxu. So Luxu, when Luxord came back, wouldn't have been the person to give him the task, as Luxord confirms that it was Xemnas who brought these 4 back. And Xemnas closes this scene by saying that Luxord and the other 3 will reveal the ancient Keyblade legacy, establishing a connection to the Keyblade for Luxord, which means even though we'll see him in Unreality later, he is tied to this reality as well. Luxord is our proof, our golden goose, that characters on this side are venturing to the realm of Unreality. Because if Verum Rex is fiction and the balance of light and darkness do not affect Unreality, how could he be tied to the Keyblade's legacy? The same way Brain carries Yozora's visage in the secret episode. Luxord is a character ripped out of Verum Rex with the heart of another individual inside their husk. Same for Demyx. The next time we see Luxord is in the Skein of Severance, where Luxord, Marluxia, and Larxene are first in a confrontation with Mickey. But what we didn't know back in 2019 was that this was not Mickey fighting the second-rate enemies of the organization. It was a hint, an early display of Mickey's connection to these individuals, as he is now going on a search for information on the Ancient Masters. However, unbeknownst to him, one of the Ancient Masters is staring him down in this confrontation. And Yensid says that during his time as a Keyblade Master, Scala at Caelum made a big deal of the disappearance of the Ancient Masters, a disappearance to a world of unreality, a disappearance into the Datascape or Data Daybreak Town, and the subsequent disappearance during their escape in the rafts, which is mentioned by Sigurd to Brain. Xemnas chooses to power up Luxord. Of all of the characters sitting there, Luxord, then Luxord gives Sora the wild card, which Nomura says is vital to his resurrection. What role it's going to play, we still don't know yet. Like, we can't even theorize on it because it's literally just like a MacGuffin. But what role it's going to play, Nomura himself said it plays a role to his resurrection. So, finally, when Remind released back in 2020, Sigurd and Luxord share a scene right at the very beginning. We return to the moment Luxu says, "May your heart be your guiding key," which cues Luxord to reveal he is spying on Luxu. "May your heart be your guiding key" is a phrase of Keyblade wielders from ages ago. Remember, this was revealed in Kingdom Hearts 0.2, where Aqua reveals this information to us. "May your heart be your guiding key" is a phrase from the age of fairy tales, and characters in the world today understand that it does come from all the way back then. Luxord enters, so you should already be questioning thus far, how the fuck does Luxord, or why would Luxord react to this saying to begin with? Luxord enters this scene and says, "Picture this, a black goat stashes a letter," a reference to the no-name Keyblade, a Keyblade mysteriously present in Scala at Caelum. Perhaps it's true that Luxu did abandon the body of Brain shortly after helping it survive the end of the world. Luxord then implies that Luxu purposefully handed Luxord this task, stating, "or he's pulling a prank." After being told to follow his orders, Luxord says, "Yes, that's what I've always done. Follow the order from above without question." Then, my personal favorite, he queries Luxu about who gave the order to find the black box, knowing already that neither Xehanort nor Xemnas gave the order, which makes Luxu expose his very own ulterior motives by trying to lie to Luxord, just as suspected of Luxu. After a bit more prodding, Luxord gets Luxu to reveal that he knows the black box holds certain secrets of Keyblade wielders, but when asked where did he learn of such information, Luxu returns to playing dumb, which Luxord attacks him, indicating he can cut the bullshit. Now this is a tangent. So you know how I've been talking about Alba and how she may be in Scala at Caelum? Here's where that idea is kind of cemented as a real possibility. Not cemented as in this is definitely what's happening, but as a real possibility. It's an outcome that could come in the future. Luxord says that he believes that Luxu has come to realize others are searching for the box, thus he now seeks to recover it to hide his affiliations to it. The darkness that escaped the data world escaped via Maleficent, and Luxu faces this darkness alone. How did Luxord come to draw this massive connection? In tangent. And the scene ends with these two questioning the identity of one another. I think Luxord obviously is questioning Luxu's identity because, as established by Xemnas, he must be truly from Scala at Caelum, and thus he would know of the foretellers and the ancient masters, cause Ericus was trying to keep this exact same information from young Xehanort in the past. And Luxu is questioning Luxord's identity because Luxord seems to have knowledge of the foretellers, and we know the scholars and royal family of Scala at Caelum seem to still have Ephemera's Book of Prophecies, thus they may have awareness of the Black Box and how the No-Name operates in conjunction with the Book of Prophecies, thus sparking Luxord's interest when Luxu gives him an order to find a black box that's connected to Keyblade wielders. But what does all this have to do with Sigurd? Well, besides how Sigurd seemed to be Brain's chaperone and Luxord the chauffeur of Yozora who mysteriously appears in the good ending of the secret episode, I believe that Sigurd was sent undercover by people at Scala at Caelum, or as we should know them or perceive them to be, the scholars or the royal family, sent Luxord on a spying mission. Remember, Xehanort himself is also aware of Luxu's schemes, as he leaves a mirror copy of the No-Name Keyblade to Luxu, entrusting the real one to Sora. Thus it seems Luxord and Xehanort are operating on the exact same framework, information obtained in none other than Scala at Caelum. Yin Sid also hints at this awareness again with the drawings of the foretellers in his study, with the return of the foretellers being transcribed with the opening of Kingdom Hearts by the Dark Seeker. Luxord is spying on the others to find specifically Luxu, as he's shown to be spying on Laurium, Elrena, and Luxu, the three characters from the Age of Fairy Tales. So, let me go on a bit of a tangent because I know that we pretty much established all of the framework that we needed, but I know there's going to be some people who don't, oh my god, phone. I know there's going to be some people who don't truly understand the implications of everything that I've stated here. So let me go ahead and break this down. Within Kingdom Hearts' Memory of Melodies, it's established that Xehanort knows more about the Ancient Masters, who is not the foretellers. The Ancient Masters is the 5 Union leaders that were within the Data Daybreak Town. So we have this established that information about them is within Scala at Caelum. Well, at the end of Union Chi, we have Sigurd mentioning that the Ancient Masters have not appeared within the time frame of when Brain appears. But we know that the Ancient Masters that appeared in this time are now nobodies. Marluxia, which is one of them, and of course, the rest, Ventus, they're off doing other things. They do not come to Scala at Caelum. They never visit Scala at Caelum, and it's very clear that these characters do not get involved with anyone from Scala at Caelum except for Ericus in the case of Ventus. However, that doesn't indicate to Ericus because Ericus may not know who exactly these characters are, but we do know that Sigurd was expecting Brain to appear in the age that, in the time and place where he appeared at the end of Union Chi. So we know that the scholars, the royal family, or whoever is at Scala at Caelum is aware of the Ancient Masters, and this is confirmed within Memories of Melody when Yin Sid gives the task to Mickey to go and research and learn more about unreality and the Ancient Masters, as we are getting closer to the advent of the return of the foretellers, and even worse, the return of the Master of Masters. So with that being said, if we operate off the framework that Yozora is Brain, or Yozora and Verum Rex comes from Scala at Caelum, as they seem to share multiple connections, and you can go back and check out that video if you haven't seen it. It'll be linked in the description and in the comments section. We know that Verum Rex apparently comes from Scala at Caelum. If that's the case, then of course this would mean that if Luxord is the driver at the end of the good ending for the secret episode, then that would mean that he is connected to Yozora. If Yozora is Brain, then they must be two characters that we've already met by now, as why would they even show us that Luxord is from Unreality, and why would Luxord also then give Sora a wild card? a wild card that Nomura said himself plays into his resurrection. And then Sora would go on to meet the person that he's supposed to be driving for, Yozora. And then, even then, beyond that, when Yozora awakens in the car, Luxord, or what we perceive to be Luxord, says, "Impressive, is it not?" And as I've already displayed in the Yozora video, he's not talking about the city. He's talking about the power of Sora, the power that he has with the Keyblade, and how, just like Xehanort said, he's a Keyblade wielder unlike any he has ever seen before. And this is important when you consider that Yen Sid said that Master Xehanort was the strongest Keyblade wielder, at least in his time, that he's ever known of. So if Xehanort is the strongest Keyblade wielder that Yen Sid knew of, and Xehanort says that Sora is a Keyblade wielder unlike any he has ever seen before, then that means it's more than likely true that Luxord is talking about Sora's power with the Keyblade, as he was even capable of defeating Yozora, who apparently seems to be a weapon to try and steal back the legendary weapon from the Master of Masters to set Sora free and save him from unreality so that they can trap the Master of Masters there. So these connections with Luxord are starting to run very deep. Like, he's also spying on the organization. He's spying on the organization. And the deeper implications of that is that he's aware of the advent of the Dark Seeker. What is the advent of the Dark Seeker? The moment he opens Kingdom Hearts will allow, or is said to be the exact same moment, the foretellers return to reality, to the world. And then following their return, so too will the Master of Masters. Luxord then also appears within Unreality. He's the driver of Yozora. If he's the driver of the Yozora, this is why the connection between Sigurd being a chaperone and Luxord being a driver is important, because seeing as these two roles seem to be very close, as chaperone and chauffeur, they're both guides essentially to Brain and Yozora, and Luxord specifically is spying on the organization, and he's finally narrowed down. He's spying, bro. He's spying on Laurium and Elrena. He knows about these two, and then he's also spying on Luxu. This is why Luxu gives him that task of finding the black box. This is why when he appears in Remind, he says, "Picture this, a black goat," which is referring to the no-name Keyblade which appeared in Scala at Caelum, as we saw at the beginning of Kingdom Hearts 3. It's a reference. He's referencing the Keyblade. A black goat hides a letter and then tells a white goat to find it. He's basically saying that he is aware that Luxu is aware that he is spying on him. And then when they both question who each other is really, it's a connection to him understanding that Luxu apparently is this motherfucker right here. He's starting to become aware that this is who he's looking for. And the advent of the Dark Seeker is starting to occur. So he's given a task, an important role, by Xehanort and Xemnas, one that he never gets to elaborate on. By getting this task, and we see it at the ending, it's given Sora the wild card, which is connected to his resurrection. I think what the wild card is supposed to be isn't something that's magical. I think all it's really supposed to be is a way of jogging Luxord's memory, or proving Sora's identity to Luxord. If they come together, and of course the Master of Masters potentially looks like Sora, a year will have passed. Remember that, a year has passed. Luxord wouldn't know in his somebody form what Sora looks like a whole year after. Remember how massively Sora grew in one fucking year? Just imagine another year passing. So he wouldn't know what he looks like. Thus, what if the Master of Masters can shapeshift? What if the Master of Masters can shapeshift? You see what I'm saying? Like, there's all of these possibilities. The wild card is proof of identity to Yozora and his friends that Sora is who he says he is, which can get them or allow them to trust that this is the real Sora, to get him out of unreality, to save Sora from the fate that he's about to meet, where he'll be stuck in the trap if they do not take out the Master of Masters, instead of the Master of Masters getting a hold of Sora's legendary weapon, because this was the point of sending the Dark Seeker on his path to create an X-Blade that has 13 dark pieces that the Master of Masters or Sora can then use their 7 lights. The Master of Masters mentions his 7 at the beginning of back cover, and the 7 Guardians of Light, or whoever will assume the roles, as it appears that the Master of Masters in the Gathering does make it out of unreality. So there you go. That's why I believe Sigurd is Luxord. Sigurd and Luxord play very similar roles as we've seen them thus far, a chaperone and a chauffeur. Luxord, obviously, like, there's no way, the only way that someone, it would have to be Tetsuya Nomura himself writing into the story that Luxord, or whoever he truly is, doesn't come from Scala at Caelum, because there's a lot of hints here that this dude is connected to Scala at Caelum. From everything that I've shown you guys today to the bare minimums of him spying on specifically Laurium and Elrena, and then also someone he suspects to be also from the Age of Fairy Tales, Luxu, as he's told about the black box, and then he's spying on Luxu, and Luxu recites a phrase that finally exposes to him that Luxu is someone from the fucking Age of Fairy Tales, dog, by saying, "May your heart be your guiding key." Remember, right after this is the last point I'm gonna make. Remember, right after this scene, there's the scene with Xehanort. And remember, at the end of that scene, Xehanort says, "May your heart be your guiding key." Where did he hear this from? The Master of Masters. He heard it from the Master of Masters. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it gave you guys a lot of insight into what's going on within the series. And remember, I said there's 2 forces that seem to have shaped for the future that we aren't fully aware of yet. These 2 forces, I believe, are Alva's minions, Alva's pawns, the people in Scala at Caelum. Some way, somehow, she's going to be involved there. Or it could just be that Xehanort, remember I said before too, that Xehanort potentially got this information to them some way, somehow. Remember, we've never even seen Prime Xehanort when he's around the age of Xemnas. So, and remember, Xemnas doesn't use the Keyblade. Prime Xehanort being out there somewhere could be why he never uses the Keyblade. I'm just saying. But there's those 2 frameworks that we have right now, to where it seemed like there's 2 forces. There's the forces in Scala at Caelum, and then there's Luxu, who has been secretly doing all of the bullshit that he's been doing, which has led us to the advent of the Dark Seeker, which has now brought back the Foretellers, and the Master of Masters is following suit. But first he needs to get his hands on the legendary weapon, as him and Sora have appeared in unreality. So thank you guys for tuning into this video. I hope it gave you a lot of insight. Take care of yourself and take care of each other, and if you screw up, there's always tomorrow. And don't forget to do a little A-class gaming, baby. Peace the heck out.